Hi everyone, I hope you were all well today. It's Sunday morning. Um, what have I been up to this week? Obviously, very stressfully working as usual. But it's been a bit of a funny week this week because I found myself be really like drained, tired. So reading's been a bit difficult for me this week, which I will go into more but the purpose of this video to review the book I've been reading this week. But also it's been a bit of a sad week because we lost very sadly we lost Christopher Plummer on Friday. I cried when I heard the news because I think it's that thing that although I know various films throughout his absolutely amazing career, he the film that everyone will instantly think of him straight off the mark is The Sound of Music. It's one of my favourite musicals. It's kind of been a part of our family ever since we were little. Like it was always on at Christmas and Easter and stuff like that. And it's actually the first film that my mum ever saw when she was little. So it's just this kind of family connection. Of course, he's the dad of the family. Obviously, he starts off very cold and such, but then he gets better. And Christopher Plummer is absolutely wonderful in that film. So it's like, this dad symbol that I have in the land of musicals in my mind is Christopher Plummer. Just straight off the bat, it is him. And so to lose him this week was really sad, and I really felt it. It was a horrible loss to have this week. So yesterday, because Friday the news broke on, I think it was sort of late Friday afternoon, and I was so exhausted. Literally, I fell asleep about 7:30, I think, maybe 8 o'clock, and I slept through until 6 o'clock or something the following morning, which is highly unusual for me. I usually go to bed around 10:30, 11, and I'm up about 5:30, 6ish. So to sleep that long, I needed the sleep. God, it's been another crazy week at work. So yeah, because I was so tired, I instead yesterday watched The Sound of Music, and I did get choked up and such whilst watching it, but it's such a beautiful performance he gives, and I just, oh my god, I just love Christopher Plummer. So rest in peace, Christopher, and I'll continue to love you as Mr. Von Trapp. Captain Von Trapp, should I say? Captain, that's his official title. I'll continue to love you for that role and all the other roles that you played in your amazing career. And one thing before I get into the review, I just want to plug a TV series which I started watching yesterday afternoon. It's been on because it's a 5-episode series. All 5 episodes available here in the UK at the moment as a box set, download box set, or you can watch each week as it's being broadcast. And so far 3 out of the 5 episodes have been broadcast on TV here in the UK, and it's due to launch in America on I think it's 18th of February, and it's called It's a Sin, written by Russell T Davies, and oh my god, it was so freaking good. I intended to just watch 1 episode or maybe 2 episodes yesterday and then watch the rest today. No, I sat and I watched the whole thing in one block, and I laughed, I cried, it was absolutely wonderful. If you don't know what it's about a group of friends who meet in London. You see them coming from all their different walks of life, and they congregate and meet in London and become flatmates. And it begins in 1981 and ends in 1991. And in those 10 years, the AIDS epidemic hit, and it's about them going through various life events, but also being impacted by the AIDS epidemic in very different ways. And it was absolutely beautiful, absolutely astonishing. And I think everybody from the LGBTQ plus community who have been affected by AIDS during that time, because especially I think would respect what Russell has written, what the creators have done, how they depicted certain things, because it was so bizarre the way that they were treated, the way, like, even to the degree of, if you got a mortgage application, you got quizzed about your sex life. If you got a mortgage application, obviously, if you were applying for a mortgage, but it showed how people who were suffering from AIDS when the outbreak, was first happening, and they didn't really know anything about it. They were being completely locked away, isolated, food left for them on a tray outside the door, and they'd knock on the door, and then the patient had to get out of the bed and walk to be able to get their food. Stuff like that. It was like they weren't treated as humans. It was so hard to watch that. But it's the truth, and the truth should be depicted the way it was. And I'm really proud of everyone who has done that. And it's also very important, I think, for education purposes, to say this is what happened, and we shouldn't forget this. And I was disgusted, like, a lot of funeral homes and such wouldn't take people who had died of AIDS, and if they did, they would cremate them at the end of the day or have services late at night, so then they wouldn't be seen by other people. And it's like, that's just insane. Now, of course, anybody can contract HIV and AIDS. We know that now, but then we didn't. And it's so interesting to see the reactions of multiple generations in this drama. Some of them react for support for those affected, some don't. It had such a power punch, and all the cast were absolutely fabulous. So I just wanted to do that. Right, I'm 7 minutes in and I haven't even started on the book. So sorry. Right, so let's talk about the book I've been reading this week, which is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So I have to admit, guys, this is the number one book for Christmas. It has shifted over 1 million copies since it was first published. I think it was September. Yes, it must have been, because Richard Osman was promoting it at the Literature Festival, Cheltenham Literature Festival, which was early October. So yeah, so around August, September, I think it got published. Of 2020, yeah, it shifted over 1 million copies. It was the number one book for Christmas. He sold the film rights to Steven Spielberg, and a film is currently in the works, being written and such, for it, and he has 2 sequels lined up already. And I couldn't finish the book. I couldn't finish it, guys. I battled through, how many pages? I battled through 120 pages, and I just went, I can't do this. I cannot do this. Now, right, let me explain exactly why. Well, at least what I think is the reason why, because I'm still debating about why I can't finish this book. So, first of all, you have got the plot of the story. Let's talk about the plot of the story first. It is about 4 old age pensioners, or OAPs, who live in an OAP community. So they've got flats and stuff like that, but they're all together, and they have like community sessions and such each night at certain times, various things that you could do, that kind of thing. So they're all together, but they all have their own independent lives, as it were. And they are Joyce, Elizabeth, Ron, and Ibrahim. And they are, I can't remember exactly which career links to which one, but one's a former psychiatrist, one is a former nurse, one is a union man. Well, obviously, that's definitely one of the blokes that career is linked to. And the other one formerly worked in the police. And they come together every Thursday at 9 p.m. under the guise of, in the jigsaw room, under the guise of a Japanese art appreciation group or something, because they know they gave it this title, so they knew that nobody else would want to join, so it could be exclusively for them. And it happens on a Thursday night, and they are the Thursday Murder Club, and they get together and they talk about cold cases and try and solve the cases. And with one of them being former police, she has access to her various files that she has. She's still got them, but because they're cold cases, nobody cares. Nobody's bothered to look into the files that she has, so she just carries these files around, and they talk about these various crime scenes, and they look at the photos and all the evidence, and they try to figure out, solve the crime, try to figure out who did it. And part of the OAPM is actually community, is being expanded. So there's an architect around, and he's explaining what they're going to be doing and stuff. And he gets murdered. And so because they've got this murder literally on their doorstep, the Thursday Murder Club decides to solve the murder, and it's about them investigating it. Now, structure. Structure is the key thing that I think is stopping me from finishing this book. And that is because it's like about 350 pages long, and it has 116 chapters. That irked me straight off the mark, because I'm like, do you need chapters that short? And some of them actually have breaks in the chapters. It's like, well, if your chapters are so short, why do you need breaks in them? And I was like, okay, that's, let's just okay, let's just kind of go with it. But I was like, okay, so your chapters are averaging 3 pages long, you've got a break in them, that's weird. Then you have the issue, or at least I have the issue, that it keeps on flipping. And by that, what I mean is that you have Joyce writes a diary. So you keep on getting chapters that are her diary entries. So they're written as first person perspective. Totally happy with that. No problem. Then all the other chapters are written third person present tense. Okay, no problem with that. Because, I've read books where it's flipped back and forth. I've had no problem at all. But there's something about this one, because the chapters are so short and you're constantly flipping back and forth, it kind of feels like be one or be the other. If it was a case of there was long sections of third person and then you had short first person and then back to long third or something, I think that structure would work better, rather than having this 2 pages first perspective, 2 pages third perspective, 2 pages first, 2 pages, that I was just a bit like, this is not working for me. Then you have, I feel like this book does suffer from first book syndrome for me, where it's very clear that it's an author's first book, that they haven't necessarily written in this kind of style before. And because of an example of that is that this is all about these 4 OAPs who get together, who talk about crimes, who find that they've got this murder that's happened and that's in a way linked to them because it's the architect and to do with this expansion of where they live. You'd expect the story to stay on them, and it doesn't. You have these scenes of character interactions which the group of OAPs have never even met. So why are you having those scenes happen if we're meant to be following what the OAPs are investigating? It's like we've got the crime at this, here is the OAPs and they're at point, like say 2. And because of stuff that we already know from conversations that are happening between characters that they never met before, we, for the murder investigation, of knowing stuff, is at 0.5. So why are we at 0.5 as the reader, but the people who we are following the investigation with are at 0.2 with knowledge of events? It doesn't fit. I would rather that we had this, still fine to go back between first and third person, but have it be that we're following the investigation as the OAP group are learning it, not this weird. It kind of felt like, like when you watch a TV drama and you have, like, say, Inspector Morse or Poirot or Marple or Sherlock Holmes, whatever. You might have a scene where the investigator isn't involved at all. It'd be a very short scene, kind of moody lighting and all this, kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, what's the relevance of that? When you're watching the drama, you'd rather stick with the investigation. That's how I was with reading this book. And even though the characters are good, at the same time, I was just a bit like, yeah, we're just plodding along. We're just plodding along. And there were some bits of it that I just kind of irked me a little bit, in that, okay, for example, Joyce and Elizabeth at one point end up going to the police station because Joyce isn't there to do this specifically. It's Elizabeth who's there to do it. They're basically going on a day trip, and Elizabeth pretends that her bag has been stolen to go to the police station to talk to a specific female police officer who they know. And this police officer is kind of annoyed with her job, that she's always treated as the young girl of the office. She's given the menial job. She wants to get in on the murder stuff and she can't get in on there, and she's just a bit frustrated. And basically Elizabeth kind of manipulates her and corrupts her to then steal various documents to give to the Thursday Murder Group to solve the crime. And they're like, oh, and you can solve it with us. Do you want to? And that's okay. It's just like, there's just some things where I'm like, I'm sorry, even though I get the humor, I get that it's the whole thing that they want to solve the murder and that, but as a former member of the police, would you be corrupting a young woman who is currently a member of the police and basically doing something that breaks the law and could send her to prison and destroy her career? Would you do that? To me, my brain's going, no, you wouldn't do that. But they do it, and it's just like, I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm sorry, I actually feel like I cannot pick this book up. I can't do this anymore. And so page 120, which is the end of chapter 32, I was like, you know what, close the book, put it down, give yourself the evening, see how you feel Sunday morning, and if you still feel this way, just stop reading and do the review. And here I am. So I was just like, to give yourself the Saturday evening off and just see what you can do, see how you feel on Sunday. And if you feel like picking it up again, pick it up again, else just stop and do this review. And I really like Richard Osman. I think he's a really great broadcaster, and I love his various shows, but I just kind of feel like it wasn't structured the way that I anticipated it would be, and the way that it has been for me doesn't work. Obviously for someone it will do. I mean, this has gotten so many 5-star reviews. People, reviewers in various newspapers and various critics love this book, but I just can't. There's a barrier and I can't get through it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down, I'm going to leave it a while, and I'm going to try and pick it up again and see how I feel. It could have been that it's just because it's been a really, as I said, really exhausting, really stressful week for me this week with work and that. And I don't know if it's just I was in the wrong headspace to read this, but I was expecting, because it's tagged as being such a a kind of a light, fluffy story. So I thought for the week that I had, it's actually the perfect book to read in an evening. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't. And quite frankly, I didn't really care about the murder. I didn't care about investigating it. I was just rather baffled by what I was reading. And even though there is wit and there is charm in it, the wit and charm is only really there from funny outbursts that characters might have or from Joyce's diaries. Other than that, it's quite dry. So with that dryness, the structure that didn't work for me, the characters I didn't care about, the stuff that I was baffled by, the scenes that I felt like we didn't need, the perplexity I felt when we kept on breaking away from the Thursday Murder Group and learning stuff that they're not even aware of. It just doesn't work for me. So that's why after 120 pages, I am stopping the Thursday Murder Club. Obviously, for my page count, at the end of the year, I always say how many books and how many pages I've read. I will only count those 120 pages. But it doesn't work for me. Sorry, guys. I know possibly some of you are expecting me to be absolutely raving about the Thursday Murder Club because it has been so massive on the literary circuit and such last year and for the Christmas books in the UK, but I just can't finish it. So yeah, so that's the Thursday Murder Club. I don't know how to finish this now. I suppose I could give you a reading. Let's have a look, because I think I marked a page with a very, very small corner turning. Oh yeah, okay. So this is everyone at the OAP community have had a consultation about the expansion of it and the interruptions that they'll have and such, and there's a lot of concern about the forest area around where they are and that. So this is right after the consultation. The consultation over, Ron is sitting with Joyce beside the bowling green, cold beers glinting in the sunshine. He is currently being distracted by a retired one-armed jeweller from Ruskin Court called Dennis Edmonds. Dennis, to whom Ron has never spoken before, wants to congratulate Ron on the various salient points that he made during the consultation meeting. Thought-provoking, Ron, thought-provoking, plenty to chew on there. Ron thanks Dennis for his kind words and waits for the move that he knows is coming, the move that always comes. And this must be your son, says Dennis, turning towards Jason Ritchie, who also cradling a beer. The champ. Jason smiles and nods as polite as always. Dennis extends his arm. Dennis, I'm a friend of your dad's. Jason shakes the man's hand. Jason, how do you do, Dennis? Dennis stares for a beat, waiting for Jason to start a conversation, then nods enthusiastically. Well, a pleasure to meet you. I'm a huge fan, seen all your fights. We'll see you soon again, I hope. Jason nods politely again and Dennis ambles off, forgetting even to pretend to say goodbye to Ron. Father and son, well used to those interruptions, resume their conversation with Joyce. Yeah, it's called Famous Family Trees, said Jason. They've researched the family history and they want to take me around various places, tell me a bit, about family history, great granny's a prostitute, all of that. I ain't seen it, said Ron. Was it on the BBC? It's ITV. It's really very good, Ron, said Joyce. I saw one recently. Did you see it, Jason, with the actor? He's the doctor from Holby City, but I've also seen him in the Poirot. I didn't see it, Joyce, said Jason. Oh, it was very interesting. His grandfather, it turns out, had murdered his lover, a gay lover as well, and his face was a picture. Oh, you should do it, Jason. Joyce claps. Imagine if Ron had a gay granddad. I'd enjoy that. Jason nods. They'd want to talk to you too, Dad, on camera. They asked if you'd be up for it, and I told them good luck shutting you up. Ron laughs. Are you really doing that celebrity ice dance thing as well? I thought it might be fun. Oh, I agree, said Joyce, finishing her beer and reaching for another. You're doing a lot at the moment, son, said Ron. Joyce says that she saw you on MasterChef. Jason shrugs. You're right, Dad. I should go back to boxing. I couldn't believe that you never made a macaroon before, Jason, said Joyce. Ron knocks back some of his beer, then motions over to his left with the bottle. Over by the BMW, Jace. Don't look now. That's Ventham, the one I was telling you about. I ran rings around him, didn't I, Joyce? He didn't know if he was coming or going, Ron, agrees Joyce. Jason leans back and stretches a casual look to his left as he does so. Joyce moves her chair to get a better look. Yeah, nice and subtle, Joyce, said Ron. That's Curran with him, Jace. The builder. He even comes... you ever come across him in town? Once or twice, said Jason. Ron looks over again. The conversation between the men looks tense. Talking fast and low, hands aggressive and defensive, but contained. They having a little Barney, you think? He asks. Jason sips his beer and scans across the car park again, taking the men in. They're like a little couple out on a date, pretending that they're not having an argument, said Joyce, in a Pizza Express. You nailed it there, Joyce, agrees Jason, turning back to his dad and finishing his beer. Game of snooker this afternoon, son, said Ron, or are you shooting off? Love to, Dad, but I've got a little errand. Anything I can help with? Jason shakes his head. Boring one. Won't take long. He stands and stretches. You haven't had any journalists ring you up today, have you? Should I have? Asked Ron. Is something up? Nah, you know journalists. But no calls, no mail or anything? I had a catalogue for walk-in baths, said Ron. You want to tell me what you're asking? What you're asking? You know me, Dad. They're always after something. How exciting, said Joyce. See you both, says Jason, and don't get drunk and smash the place up. Jason leaves. Joyce turns her face up to the sun and closes her eyes. Well, isn't this lovely, Ron? I never knew I liked beer. Imagine if I died at 70. I never would have known. Cheers to that, Joyce, said Ron and polishes off his drink. What do you reckon's up with Jason? Probably a woman, says Joyce. You know what we're like. Ron nods. Probably, yeah. He watches his son depart into the distance. He's worried. But then there's never been a day with Jason, whether in the ring or out of it, when Ron wasn't worried. So that is a whole chapter. What kind of irked me, I know there were various people in that conversation, but I didn't like that, like, he kept on saying, Joyce said, Ron said, Joyce said, Ron said. Do you know what I mean? It was just that's what I mean by first book syndrome, where I'm like, there are other ways that you can write it, and you don't have to keep on using the word said. It just, I don't know what it is, but there's something not working particularly for me. I mean, I'd say certainly give it a go if you want to give it a go, but I don't know if you feel the same with me with like that chapter, that although it wasn't too bad and it was a flowing conversation and there was a little bit of charm in there and such, something irks. And it's odd, and I don't like it. There's something off. But as I say, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to try again outside of this channel to try it again. And if I've got an update review for you, because I managed to get through it, then I will let you guys know. But for the time being, those are my thoughts on The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you to decide. And I've actually reached, this is book 5 out of the 5 that I've already announced. So if you go over to my next video, then you'll see the next 5 books I will be reading. All right, guys. Bye.